Dude, Patrick, it's gonna be amazing, and you know how I get with you, so I'm gonna relax a bit, and yeah, cause I just get super excited. Good juju all around. Let's go. Okay, so there it is, and now we start. So, welcome back to the Julian J. Franco Show, a show where I just introduce you to fascinating people who have accomplished great things in their life, and more importantly than their accomplishments is that they are genuine, right? Because you can go to any show and listen to anybody talk about their accolades, what they did, how they went about it, but if you don't know that they're actually, living what they preach, what are you actually gaining from them? So everybody who comes on the show is somebody who I would stand behind 100%. And our guest, Patrick Ganino, is absolutely one of them. He's a mural artist, entrepreneur, business manager, author, and again, he's a personal friend of mine. He's created masterpieces all over the world for restaurants, celebrities, businesses, and much more. And you know what? I simply can't do his art justice, and I wouldn't recommend somebody stop a show, but this one, I want you to pause it right now because you're not going to be able to fully enjoy it unless you go over to his Instagram right now and just take a few scrolls and look at what he's done. So like that, you'll know who you're actually listening to. So Patrick, thank you so much for joining us today. And I want to just jump right in. I'm going to jump right in.
Patrick, what's your workout routine like?
I start every day off with like a real focused 20-minute, workout. Each day it's a different muscle. There's no real break in between reps. So it's sort of, back to back to back. I do it mainly because I'm ADD. I want to get it over with and I want to get my day started. I wake up very excited about what I have planned for the day, but I also want to work out because it clears my mind. It makes me feel physically good, mentally good. And that's it. It's great.
I love that. I love that. And yeah, I feel fitness, obviously everyone knows this. It's your bread and butter, something you can take control over. And now just to dive into it, I remember you invited me to a party, Patrick. This is when we were, I guess, in our honeymoon phase, but we're still in our honeymoon phase. And you're the type of individual that exactly, it always feels that way. So I really wanted to hone in on that. I was invited to a party where you knew absolutely everyone, and you could have chose to pick a group, a person, and for some reason you chose me. Well, that's how I feel. It may be different from your perspective, but I was invited to a party and I didn't know anyone there. And you literally made me feel as if I was your best friend. You're like, hey guys, this is Julian. Hey, Julian, come over here. We're going to take a picture. Hey, Julian, do you want a drink? Hey, Julian, this person, you know what that person does? You just treated me as if there was something to gain from being my friend, which there absolutely wasn't. And I just want to know, how do you approach that? How do you do that?
You know what? I grew up in an Italian family. I mean, tons of cousins and aunts and uncles. And, even from my youth, we used to have these huge parties. I mean, whether it be holidays or summer parties, and everybody would come over. And I remember even growing up, my parents, I mean, we would always have people like on our back deck hanging out. They'd meet somebody and they'd invite them over. My father loved meeting people. My mother definitely loved meeting people as well. But my father was the catalyst. I mean, we would go to the gas station and all of a sudden he'd have a 15-minute conversation with the clerk, and then they'd be telling the clerk about me, and I'd be embarrassed. I was 12 years old. Like, what are we doing? But he genuinely enjoyed people and getting to know them and like them, and just being open and inviting them into their world. So to me, we had just had a great day, doing some work across town. And I really enjoyed hanging out with you. You have a spark, people have sparks. And come to this party. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it just seems like that's how you meet people, right?
Right. Yeah, but
so
the
I like
thing,
it.
yeah.
You get along great, you have a nice flow, and if you meet somebody with a nice flow, why not invite them into your world a little bit, right?
But Patrick, you don't just invite people into your world. You invite them with a beautiful platter and you make them feel extremely special. And I believe that's one of the main reasons why you have longevity, not only in your career, but just like in your friendships, because you just have this special gift. And I guess that's something that I always try to decipher, right? Like, what is it about this guy that if he comes into town, and has happened, I am going to see him, whether it's for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. There's no debate about it. And I just think that's a magical gift that you have. And hopefully throughout this interview, people can get some insight into how that has been developed. So if we can just go into it, how the heck did Patrick get so talented? How did you even start Yeah. How did art come into your life? How?
You know, I drew. I've been drawing ever since I was a little kid. I mean, I've got a great grandfather that was a decent artist. I had an uncle that was a great artist, a cousin who was a good artist, and going back to the fact that we've always had people visiting our house, even growing up. If a cousin was moving, you know, from Texas to Connecticut and needed a place to stay, they would live with us for a month. Or my uncle would move from St. Louis back to Connecticut, so he stayed with us for a month. So we always had these people that were sort of intertwined into our little Italian world. And a lot of them were creative and artistic, and I would draw with them and this and that, and there's still these drawings from when I was 4 or 5 years old that you know, I look at them now and, you know, they're pretty neat for a little kid to do. So I was always into art. I was always into creativity. I was always into being an entrepreneur, somewhat, some shape or form. I did door-to-door sales at 15. I used to design T-shirts in 7th grade and sell them to like the teachers and all the students. I mean, I would hand draw each one. It was crazy, and you know, it got to the point where from a, you know, from a scholastic standpoint, I was not that good when it came to studying and getting good grades. I wasn't really interested. I would, you know, I loved history and I still do love history, but I wasn't really one of those guys that could memorize and use the details. I like the overall story, the 10,000, you know, foot high sort of version of it. And so when it came time to graduate high school and go to college, my best friend was already going to school down in Florida. And you know, if you're 18 years old, Florida's not a bad place to be, right? You're a Northeast guy. You know what I'm saying? It's cold up here.
Right. Yeah.
It's cold
Chilly
here right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I went down to Florida and I dropped out of school for like 2 weeks. And my friend was working in a nightclub and they needed a mural done for reggae night. So they offered me $500, and for an 18-year-old, $500 is a lot of money. And that was kind of it. I'm going to be honest with you. Right at that point, I did that mural. I started doing another mural for another nightclub, another restaurant, so on and so forth. I started pitching places personally, and it evolved from there. And it really wasn't until I met my wife and we were getting married, and I was 22, I was super young, and where we were having a rehearsal dinner, they wanted a mural, and I said I would do it. And we had our first kid, and I was like, listen, I'm gonna do this full time. And I just hit the pavement. I phone book. I mean, this is before real internet stuff. I mean, phone book, calling architects, builders, designers, just introducing myself, just so I can get in front of them, have a conversation, and just talk about the idea of doing artwork in some sort of shape or form for them. And I grinded, man, and it worked. I mean, 20 years later, I'm still waking up every day, you know, like a child. I mean, I get excited about what I'm going to paint, what I'm going to do, and the people I'm going to meet while I do it. And it's great. Very cool.
I love
It's
that.
a lot coming at you.
Yeah, it's a lot coming at me, but it's beautifully said. The fact that 4 or 5 years old, you're already, you know, picking up and using your hand, being creative, using that art. And as far as like you meeting your wife so early on, we are gonna piggyback off of that on the relationship aspect of the show. But I am so interested in, you know, digging deeper into that. So, but to continue on your artwork, you know, you're doing these murals, and again, guys, please go check them out. Patrick has a YouTube channel as well. He has all these time lapse, which are incredibly amazing. And you just see all the work that he's doing. But one thing I noticed is, Patrick, you're usually alone when you're doing this. So my initial thought when I was watching this, preparing for this interview, I'm like, I don't really see headphones. I don't see him, you know, talking with anyone else. Does he get bored? Does he get lonely? Does he get impatient at sometimes when he steps back and says, I still have etc. or this amount left to do? What are you thinking? What's your mindset throughout this? And yeah, just what don't the people know?
Well, good question. The last one, the sort of latter part where it's like, do I get sort of impatient at some point? It's not that I get impatient, but like every painting has its own challenge, right? You know, you're looking at this design, you're like, all right, I've got to create this in paint. You know, I've got 4 or 5 colors and some brushes, and I got to make this into something big and dynamic. Mm-hmm. And so the challenge is when you start that, figuring out the route you're going to take, the color palette, how you're going to put it together. And I tend to get a little bit bored sometimes or impatient as far as finishing. Once I figure out the strategy and I've solved it, now I just have to fill it in and finish it up. It's like, I'm already done, man. Mentally, I'm done. I did it. I figured it out. Now it's just, you know, small nuances to fill in the blanks. As far as, I mean, look, I'm a social guy. You know that. I love talking to people. I love meeting people. I mean, we are, you know, people like you and I were cut from a different cloth. We enjoy the stories that every individual has. You know, my father told me when I was a kid, he's like, this is my movie and you guys are the extras. And I think we talked about this a little bit a long time ago. But I love that. I love that whole idea that, you know, we can create whatever movie we want. If we want to have people who are who have a lot of issues in their life and they're very dramatic within our movies, maybe a drama where, you know, we can have a comedy, we can have a romance, whatever movie we want to have, we can have by who we decide to put in that movie. And that also dictates the quality of your life and so on and so forth. So when I'm doing these paintings, and you see me alone sometimes, that's my downtime, and that's my therapy. That's my put it together, because I am talking to so many people. I'm meeting so many people on a regular basis. So I enjoy those little windows of 2 to 4 hours where I'm just getting lost in my own mind, man. I'm just working stuff out, you know?
Patrick, that's such a good point. Since you and I are both so social, we need those opportunities where we just close off from everyone.
Yeah.
That's such a good point, because being the way that we are, if we ever step into a room and we start conversing with somebody and we're thinking about something else, or we're not 100% there, people can quickly pick that up when it comes to me and you. A lot of other people, they can fly by and they can kind of blend in. You and I, we can't do that. So I like that you have that, and that kind of recharges you. And yeah, it's very beautifully said. So now, because Patrick is going to deny this, but one day a museum is going to be open and built on, you know, just to freaking, you know, celebrate all his work. So if we're walking into your museum, what's the first mural? What's front and center? What do you want everyone to see at the very beginning?
Hands down. I mean, there's this, you know, I've dabbled in other little ventures throughout, you know, my career as an artist. And one of them was I opened a restaurant with a few partners. And so we 2.5 years ago now. And it was the first time I was able to do an actual painting for a commercial space that was mine. So I got to paint whatever I wanted to paint. And I created this mural. I mean, it's my favorite one to date. It's sort of a modern take on a Norman Rockwell sort of story. It's this bar scene with 25 individuals. They're all people I know. And they're all sort of in groups of 3 or 4 people here and there. They're looking at their phone. Somebody's maybe showing somebody this on their phone, or somebody's like kind of taking a selfie with 4 or 5 people. And it's the whole thing. The whole 25 people across in front of the bars like that. Bartenders in the back pouring a drink at someone's glass. And then there's this one couple. There's this blonde white girl with this colored guy. And I know them. They're really married in real life. Beautiful couple. And they're sitting there and they're just kind of standing looking out at you. And they're not on a phone. And you could tell they're just kind of, they're being present and enjoying themselves together. And that's my favorite piece by far. Hands down.
I love that piece too. And I believe you are all the way towards the left on that one, right? If I'm not mistaken. Yeah. So definitely remember seeing that one.
I canned myself up and I made myself a little taller as well.
Oh, well,
you know, if you're
have
gonna
to
do it, you might as well do it, right?
I thought it was a life-size replica. That's what I thought. And just the amount of detail that you put into that is extremely. Patrick, I've always told you this, and usually on your Instagram pictures, I always say, people do not understand how crazy talented you are. And why is that? You know, I know that you're not a victim and, oh, I deserve more props, and people don't really understand. Obviously, you've had this longevity because people do value your artwork, but why is it, there's 2 spectrums. People can look at a mural and go, okay, whatever. And then there's other people who would spend their last dollar on a piece of artwork. So why do you think we have that?
I don't know, but I mean, I have a couple different takes on that. I mean, one is I love meeting new people and showing them my artwork, and you could tell right off the bat who's creative and who's not, and who's into art, and who's not, just by how they react. You know, you could show somebody something like this in 2 hours and like, oh, cool. Like, all right, they just think differently. They're just doing a different thing. That's all, you know. And there's some people looking, they're like, that's amazing. How long did they ask for follow-up questions? And those people tend to be creative and in a sort of artistic venture themselves, whether it be like cross stitching or whatever you have, you know. But I think that, I don't know. I mean, I think that the whole sort of creative aspect of people who love art goes hand in hand with the entrepreneurial spirit, because most people that hire me have their own business or create their own business or something along those lines. I mean, because they're creative in their own mind from it. It's not necessarily with art, but they're creative problem solvers, or they built a business from scratch, or they be a window business or what have you, or they're developers, but they're doing something, they're making something from scratch, and that wasn't there prior. People who do that, I think they appreciate art more because of the fact that they know that, hey, this was not here and now it is.
Such a good
Make sense?
point. Yeah, 100%, 100%, because they see something at its, inception until its completion. So they can understand that. And so one other thing too, watching your time lapse, you always have like your you know what I mean? Like you'll brand yourself. And you also wrote a book on marketing as well. So
Yeah.
one thing, and even your Instagram caption, it's like, I'm going to let you say it, but because I'm going to butcher it, but it's like, I enjoy the art business and the business of art, something within those lines.
Yeah.
Where did you come up with that
The art of
distinction?
business.
Right. How did that come about? And what's one tip that you'll give to somebody who's like, look, I just want to focus on my art. I want it to speak for itself. All that marketing, Gary V stuff, I'm not interested in it. What do you tell that person, Patrick?
Listen, what do you want to do? It's your choice. What do you want to do in life? I mean, I remember I grew up sort of in the Mystic, Connecticut area for my latter part of my high school years. And near there's a town called New London. There's a lot of artistic individuals there. Very artsy people, I call them. And I was never really tight with artsy individuals, like, the stereotypical artists. I always kind of flew my own way. I was more into the business aspect of it, and I happened to be a good artist. And I watched these artists, and they would see, as I grew up and started doing some commercial work and came back into town later on, and they would kind of, it's not that they would say it, but they sort of, they felt like I was selling out by doing commercial artwork for private residences, for, businesses and so forth, because I wasn't doing my own artwork as a fine art piece and going out and trying to sell it to the public. So they were doing these fine art pieces. They would do a painting on a canvas, whatever they wanted. And then they'd say, hey, it costs this much, please buy it. And somebody would buy it or they wouldn't buy it. But during the daytime, they were working at like a copy center or a coffee shop or blah, blah, blah. And it never made sense to me. Like, to me as a commercial artist, I get to do art every day, all day, 7 days a week. I'm not serving coffee. I'm honing my skill set. And it worked, because after about 10, 12 years of doing this and really sort of following a mold of what my clients wanted, they started coming to me saying, hey, this is the space I have. What would you put in it? And now, especially the last 5, 6 years, like, I'm getting the money I want for it. You know what I mean? I'm getting what I'm worth. I'm getting to create my own ideas and my own designs, working with the clients to do so. And I really am creating my own art. I'm creating my own art on a large scale. And sort of the other premise behind being a mural artist versus the fine artist, which is a little bit off track, but I want to get into this too, is as a mural artist, I sell my piece first. You say, I have this wall, and I say, what's your budget? You say, this is what it is. You give me half up front, then I do the work. As a fine artist, you tend to create paintings and try to sell them. And that's why a lot of times they're starving artists. Whereas I'm not starving, because I'm always getting paid. I'm never wasting my time doing any artwork for a client, unless I'm doing it for myself just for fun, which I do from time to time.
So your masterclass on business will be coming out shortly, and which is incredible. You explained that so beautifully. And I think the term, you're a sellout, is you just gave a brand new, fresh perspective on that whole thing. So I really like that, without downing anyone too. You weren't negative at all. Really appreciate that. Now, this is just for fun's sake. Who was the client of yours that just was the most appreciative vocally? Somebody who you said, you know what, this really lit me up. I was so happy, to deliver this project to that individual.
It wasn't even necessarily like a big client of mine, and it wasn't a client that really I did an amazing piece for or anything along those lines. It was early on, and it was maybe my second or third year in business. And there was this client, his name's Rocco, and a little Italian guy, and probably not that much older than me. And super nice guy, super high energy, makes me look like I'm, sleeping, that kind of energy, And he became a connector early on in my career. And, there's always these periods in your life where people have, this ultimate sort of value or impact, and they may not later on in life, but this period of time, it was super important. And he was a connector. He would talk about me to everybody, and he'd praise me to everybody, and he would refer me to everybody. And it propelled me forward in a much faster fashion than it would have if he did. And he's somebody that I'll never forget. I mean, I haven't talked to him in years, and I feel like I should call the guy. But it was an amazing sort of 5-year stint where I was able to get out, and that's the game, is getting in front of as many people as possible, right? So the more jobs you do, the more opportunities you have for more jobs or more referrals, or the more interactions you have, the more chances you have.
I follow that 100%. Now, to take it to the opposite side of the spectrum, Patrick, when you're dealing with a client who is difficult, right? You just, well, I wanted it this way. And one thing I remember hearing you say, you don't focus too much on the technique. You focus more on like the color mixing or whatnot. But
Yeah.
what happens if you think these are the right colors and, you know, that individual's like, you know what? No, I actually want a darker tone. I don't think this works, that works. Or like, what do you do to offset that? Or what do you do to manage that?
Well, first off, you know, I show people exactly what it's going to look like. Whatever they want for a mural, I create the mural online, and then I actually Photoshop it onto the wall that it's going to be done with their exterior, interior. So they get to see what it's going to be before I even start. Don't get me wrong, I do finish pieces and they want to change here or change there, and I may not agree with it, or I may not even want to do it, or it may even be going above and beyond outside of what they've already paid me. What I learned years ago, and what I tell my son right now, my middle son is a great kid. They were all great kids. This one specifically, you know, when we ask him to do a chore, Huffs and puffs. He's got his girlfriend. He doesn't want to deal with it. And I go, listen, man. I go, here's the deal. You can throw a fit, but you're going to do the chore anyways. So you might as well do it with a smile and walk away looking good. So in my business, I just do it, man. You know what I mean? I'm doing it anyways. I know I'm doing it anyways because it's the type of guy. So I just say, all right, great. Now, if I think it's really going to go bad and not look good, I give my opinion one time. And if they don't agree, and I do it in a very polite, sort of non-confrontational way, like, hey, this could happen if we do this. If they don't agree, you just do it. But now it's on them, and I don't feel liable or responsible for ruining a piece. Wow.
That's such a rich point. You're going to do it anyways, right? And they're going to remember your attitude and how you responded. So you always come across as very calm and collective, which is really good. But like everyone, I think you're human. I'm not sure. Hopefully we can decipher during this interview. Have you ever held on to a grudge for too long?
I'm a big time grudge guy. You want to be honest? I'm huge. Are you kidding me? I'll hold on to it for a lifetime. Not in the fact that I will be mean spirited, but if I'll give you 100% of me, and you know this, I think. I mean, you
100%.
Like if you need something, you could call me, and I won't even ask you why. I'll do it.
This podcast right here.
Yeah, listen, please. I'm just excited we get to hang out.
Right.
But there are people in your life. To me, when you first meet somebody, they have carte blanche. They've done nothing wrong. They've not lied. They've not, you know what I mean? You believe in them. You believe that they have the best sort of possible intent, you know, out there. And then as you create a relationship and over time and you create a history with them, you learn who they are and how they make decisions in bad times and good times and blah, blah, blah. And that's how you decide whether you keep them in your herd or they're going to move on to another herd because you're not interested in having them there. So when there's a line that somebody crosses, it's not about getting in an argument or, you know, it's not stupid, silly, trivial stuff. But there are levels of stuff. There's a line that if you cross, I'm like, now I know who you are. And then they're out. And that's it. And I don't look back. And I've done it many times over the year. And I'll bet you probably every year I cut 2 or 3 people out of my life completely. Whether I've known them for a year, 5 years, 10 years, there's a point where you see who they really are. And luckily, I have so many people that are freaking amazing and they're so dynamic and positive and have the same moral values that I do and so on and so forth, that my herd continues to get bigger and bigger every year, even if I cut a couple of people out. But yeah, I mean, I'll hold on. I'll never forget. You know what I mean? Not in a negative way, but you want to be surrounded by the right people.
Patrick, thank you for being so honest. And you're spot on. You can't unhear something, right? If somebody says something to you, you can't unhear it. Somebody does an action, you can't unsee it. And, you know, people just say, oh, just forget about it. Patrick does forget about it in a sense, but it's reality. You know what I mean? So I like that. You're not delusional. So just since we're on that, what agitates you the most from either your friends or family? What's something that you just like, I can't take this, you know?
Technology, man.
Really?
I don't. You could hit my car with your car, and I'm like, man, that sucks. You know what I mean? I don't care about anything like that. I care about if I can't get online or if I'm trying to make a phone call and it's not going through. I get so frustrated, man. Like that's the stuff. If I can't do the stupid things, the silly little things, that's what makes me crazy. You know?
Got it. Yeah, makes perfect sense because it's so minuscule. So it's like, why am I dealing with this? And then it just builds off of that. So I definitely understand that. Now, as far as like your relationships and like you said, who's going to be a part of my herd, who's not, Patrick, you are super busy like everyone is, right? You have You have these big projects that you go on, you travel a lot, which I know. How do you nurture your relationships? Is there like one particular practice that you put into place? Like we were talking about Rocco and you're like, hey, maybe I should reach out to him. Is that how you do it? If they pop up, you just reach out? Like, what do you do?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I'm a big
Mm,
phone guy. So
mm.
when I'm not on the side of a building painting a mural, it's a little it's a little different. Like when I'm home and I drive around a lot, I make a ton of calls. So I could be on a 40-minute drive and I'll have 9 phone calls at that time. You know what I mean? And I'll bounce
Jeez.
through them. And it is what it is. Or I make, you know what it is? I'll show you right here. It's
Mm.
my little packet here I'm bringing home today. But this is my list that I create every day. And here's a list. I make lists every day. And they're high level items and they're low level items. One of them might be, call Rocco. But if I think of it, I'll put it down there. So if I don't get to it today, it goes on tomorrow's list. And then the next day's list. They always get sort of, upgraded every day.
I love that.
But yeah, I mean, I love staying in touch. But what's cool, man, is like the people that I enjoy, the people that I really, really like and that are close to my heart are the people that are okay if they don't hear from me in a month or two. Like we could jump on the phone. Like, listen, I haven't talked to you in a couple of weeks. We could jump on the phone and you and I are like that.
Mm-hmm.
There's no like, hey man, where you been? It's like, dude, we're busy, man. We're doing the best we can. We enjoy each other and we do it when we can do it,
Right, right. Now we're gonna jump into the relationship aspect. So you said you met your wife really early on, and this is something very interesting to me, especially for a male, right? To meet a wife really early on and to stay with them. What do you give that longevity to?
The longevity is
Mm.
definitely she gets all the credit. I mean, I don't get any credit. I'm a maniac. I'm all over the place. I mean, I live a lifestyle that's not conducive to a marriage at all. I mean, I travel a lot. I'm meeting tons of people. I'm doing a lot of amazing things that she doesn't get to partake in a lot of times. I mean, not that she doesn't get to do some of them. She does. I mean, she's met pretty amazing people and celebrities and gone to great events, charitable events, and amazing dinners and this and that. But she's very understanding about what I'm doing. I mean, I get the opportunity to live a dream. You know what I mean? Who gets to be an artist? When I told my parents, my uncles and aunts, and my grandparents that I wanted to be an artist, they were like, "Oh, you're never gonna do it. You're gonna be broke." And I was like 18, 19, and in like 5 years in the business, when I started making money and I bought my first house with my wife, they're like, "We knew you could do it." And I was like,
Always believed in you.
yeah,
Yeah.
you know you could do it. Okay. So she's very calm and illogical. She's a highly intelligent individual that does not react on emotion. I'm Italian Irish, man. All we do is react on emotion. You know what I mean? She's not like that. So, she's cool.
She balances you out, so to speak. And what would you say is probably one of your favorite, personality traits of hers?
I think the fact that she's a calming sort of person in my life, and that calming sort of personality trait that she's instilled on our children to a certain extent, because when you have a dominant personality and a passive personality, the dominant is usually what the kids take on. And don't get me wrong, my kids are super hyper, super aggressive, A personality, but there's also that flavor that they get from her that, to me, in my mind, and this is what every parent wants, I believe, make them better than me. They're a better version of me. They have my energy level. They're not afraid to talk and meet people, but they're capable of this whole other sort of realm where they're good at school and they have they don't get too crazy about things. They're calming. They're a little bit more able to, stay, in more of a calm state. Like I need to constantly be doing new things. And that's what keeps me, alive and excited about life. That's why with the murals, I could do one mural and then I'm done and I'm doing another mural. It's like I'm doing a whole other thing always. So I never get bored. So I think that's it.
I love that. And now, Patrick, okay, you are one of those guys I find it to be incredible because you have a wife and you have kids, but when I'm hanging around you, you just come across as a total bro. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. It's just, it's weird because we have this picture of what a father's supposed to look like and how he's supposed to act and this and that, but you just come across as a single bachelor. And now talking about your kids, I don't have kids, but I pray to God that one day I'm blessed enough to find a wife and have these kids. That's why I'm having this interview so I can learn from you now. How would you say having kids changed you personally? You know, a lot of people say, oh, once you have a kid, everything changes. What does that mean?
I mean, look, I was a bachelor, a wild bachelor, and a single guy, and I was a wild guy as far as like, again, I had no problem creating businesses when I was youthful and making money. When I was 19, I started valet parking cars and like all this weird stuff. I was able to always create money out of thin air. Having my daughter, who's 21 now, when my wife, when I found out my wife was pregnant,
Hmm.
uh, it it honed me, it focused me. It was like, all right, you can make money and you can be wild and you can meet people, but there's got to be a goal for it. So it made me mature to a certain extent, not
Hmm.
personality wise. It
Hmm.
made me mature from a business standpoint. All right, like I can't fuck around over here and do this. I need to make it a real business, and I need to have a future and think of it in that sort of capacity.
I love that. So your daughter, I believe her name is Lauren, correct?
Yeah,
And as far as your son, what's his name?
I have two sons. One's
Okay.
Carter, and
Carter.
then one's Colson. So 21, 17, and 15.
Okay. So let's go down each of them. Just say one of your favorite things about them.
Lauren is just the sweetest person in the world. She's just sweet. I
Hmm.
mean, literally, just you come across genuinely nice people that have no sort of there's no purpose to be nice. I mean, she's just a naive, sort of nice, cute little sweet person that
Hmm.
I mean, she has my heart, period. My
I
boys go
love
crazy. They hate it because she's always right. And they're like, you always get her side. I'm like, I'm always gonna get her side.
that.
Sorry, guys. My middle son he's a mix between me and my father. I love my father. I mean, my father's just such an impact on my life. So he is this sort of weird mix between me and him, but again, even better because he's the guy. He's just this crazy dynamic kid. There was one time he was at a Starbucks with my wife, and they told me the story. My wife did.
Mm.
They were sitting there, and they noticed across two tables down there was a woman on her laptop, and she was like crying. She was literally crying. And my son at this point, he's 17 now. He's 15 then, so he's a freshman in high school. And he literally got up and went over and put his hand on her shoulder and was like, "Hey, are you okay? What's going on?" And they talked for 5 minutes, and he found out that her brother just died. She just found out. But what 15-year-old has the compassion to go up and go into someone's private space and make sure they're okay? And that sums up what type of person he is. I mean, it's amazing. And then my little guy, I mean, he is Jesus, this kid, he's gonna take over the world. I mean, he is man, he's a very interesting, unique individual. Straight A's, great artist, plays the drums, sarcastic, aggressive. I mean, um, very unique individual. I mean, they're all unique in their own right. I think they're all going to do very well in their own right. This kid, I'm curious.
I love that. I love that. And as far as it seems like you had a really good upbringing, but is there anything that you intentionally want to give your kids that you feel that you didn't have growing up?
A little bit more stability.
Mm.
So my parents were very free with me doing things. There was no, and I think because my father grew up so strict and my mother grew up so strict, they went almost extreme in the opposite fashion. So I was this wild kid going down to Florida when I was 18, having my own place, drinking, partying, doing my thing. I mean, I never had any fear of anything within the world, and I still don't. And it's something I have to really sort of pay attention to because I don't fear taking big risks. Um, so it wasn't like they taught me to be good with money or taught me to sort of just take my time a little bit with things. It's something I had to learn on my own, and that's also why my wife is a good sort of component for me. So with my kids, I don't let them do whatever they want. They're I'm definitely more strict, way more strict than my parents, but I don't think we're strict really at all overall.
I love that. And now, since you've been married for such a long time, this question can, you can friendships or it could be past relationships. But when you were reflecting on the relationships that probably didn't go as long as you thought it should, or just failed relationships, so to speak, what's the common denominator between them, that you can take responsibility for?
I mean, sometimes relationships don't work not because of one act or a negative act. Sometimes
Mm-hmm.
it's an act of sort of the environment. So if you find yourself, you know, uh, um, working in Middletown, Connecticut, or whatever town it is, and you're around this sort of group of people. Well, those are the people in your life at that time, and you talk to them every day, and so on and so forth. And then let's say you switch jobs, you move to a different town. Well, you still had a great relationship with those people, but you don't see them every day, and that was the glue that kept the relationship going. So sometimes that's how relationships end. You know what I mean? As far as like my responsibility, if a relationship ends poorly, I don't have a lot of patience for certain things. I mean, again, if you cross that line, I don't want to waste my time with somebody. I just don't want to waste my time with it. I have a great life. I love my life. I love the people I'm around, and man, I don't want to waste it around anybody that I don't necessarily believe in, I guess,
I love that. Okay. Now, as far as when you're not painting and you're not with your family, what's something that you really enjoy doing?
Like a hobby?
Yeah.
This guy 3 or 4 years ago got me into collecting like vintage basketball cards, like real old basketball cards. And I never collected cards growing up. I was never really into all that type of stuff. I love basketball. I mean, I just love basketball. And he got me into collecting these basketball cards. So we'd done a trade for some project or what have you. And the first card I got was a Michael Jordan rookie. And the way cards work are they're graded from a 0 to a 10. 10 is like the best grade. It means it's a perfect card. If the card is not graded by a company, it really has no value, right? So if you have a Michael Jordan rookie card, if it's a 10, it could be worth, hundreds of thousands of dollars. If it's worth a 3, it could be worth $1,000. If it's a 9, it could be worth $20,000 to $30,000. Well, I had gotten this card when it was worth about $5,000. And over time, because, the values went up, this thing went up like enormously. So as it went up, I was like, all right, I like this. It's a different form of investing, but it's more interesting for someone who's a visual guy like myself. It's almost like I'm playing with toys, but I'm not. I'm really investing. So I started creating this collection over the last few years. And I mean, I've got cards from like Wilt Chamberlain's rookie, Jerry West the logo rookie, Lou Alcindor, who was Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, all these crazy cards. And I love it. I like it a lot.
See, that's so interesting. I would have never known that about you. So that's very fascinating. Now, this is just the fill it in part. So you're just going to fill this in. To be an artist means
freedom.
Being a great friend begins with
I guess loyalty.
And what does loyalty mean?
Loyalty means loyalty is a judgment-free sort of zone. So again, there's a line that you can cross, but there's all this stuff sort of before it. Like, I may believe in this and you may believe in that, but we're still friends no matter what. You could be a Republican, I could be a Democrat. There's stuff that's like, it's irrelevant. These are just sort of different thought processes. And it's also just being there for each other. Like, just being there. Like, my closest friends in my life, I mean, they just always have been there. Always, no matter what, without question,
That's, beautifully said. Now, I am very proud of,
I would say, my children.
I love that. My biggest turnoff in a relationship is
insecurity. I don't like it.
Wow.
If you're too insecure, you know what I mean?
Why? Because you feel like you have to baby them or something? Yeah,
you have to baby them, but also you're not having honest conversations then. If you meet somebody who's like super insecure about things, like the conversations they tend not to be real.
Okay.
And
I got that.
They're saying what they think you want to hear and blah, blah, blah. Like, I don't like I just want to listen, man, I'm just chilling, man. I'm not perfect and I don't speak, necessarily the way I should speak, and I swear too much and blah, 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 blah. I'm just me, man. And I enjoy it, and I want people like that.
Now, humans have an incredible ability to.
I think humans have an incredible ability. I guess I would use sort of a cheesy word like survive, but what I think of when you say that, and I can't think of the actual word, but I think people put themselves in the best position to keep moving and forward in life, no matter what sort of trials, tribulations that they come across. Like, there's a weird show I saw on TV, and they were interviewing like serial killers, right? And they were asking the serial killers, they're like, hey, do you think you're a good person? And they're like, yeah, I think I'm a really good person. And you could tell they really believed it. So, we in our minds, we go through bad things and good things, or days are tough or what have you. But I think we have this sort of incredible ability to take our mind and put it where it needs to be to keep moving forward,
Makes perfect sense. And this is your last one. If I wasn't an artist.
Down in Florida having a drink, man. I don't know. Is there another option? I don't think there's another option. I mean, I would be in some sort of marketing or sales, 100%. I mean, I love, my father was a commercial salesman, and I would be in some sort of sales capacity.
I love that. Okay, Patrick, this is the final segment and just final words, right? So you want to answer this as condensed and concise as possible. So the biggest compliment someone can pay you is?
I guess I miss you. I mean, I like that. I like, hey, when I see you first, and you're like, hey man, how's it going? Like that sort of sentiment of good to see you. And you could tell from the reaction on their face and so on and so forth. I like that. When you see that genuine excitement to see somebody again or hear it in their voice, that's the compliment.
There's nothing like that. Okay. Wow. The legacy you hope to create is?
I want to impact people like I was when I was a kid. When I was a kid, I was in the backseat of my parents' car driving through a college area, and there was an old sort of historic building, and in the windows were these painted murals of these statues. And it was a year or two later, I saw another mural in a Time magazine. It was like in the front page. And those two pieces they inspired me to be an artist, a mural artist per se. I wanted to be a mural artist forever. I want one of my paintings to be seen by a kid or a, teenager or what have you. And I want them to be like, wow, I want to do that, and actually have them do it. That would be cool.
I'm sure you already have a lot of that going on. So good. You're off to a great start. And just what's something that currently brings you the most joy?
I'd still say painting, man. I mean, I love painting. I really do. I love starting off with that blank canvas and being sort of like, oh my God, I gotta do something with this. And I love the process of going through it and sort of seeing it become what it becomes, and also seeing the interactions and the reactions from the people who come by and see the process. I mean, listen, when I was in Texas doing this past mural this last month, it was on a main street, and people came by every day and they talked to me, and you start collecting these individuals who will come by on a daily basis because they really get interested. And there were a couple of people. There's this one guy, his name was James, was this cop from Virginia, and he would come by every day and see me. He talked to me for 20 minutes, and he was like my own personal Morgan Freeman. Like, that's the feel I got from him when I talked to him. You know what I mean? And he's a great guy, and we created a great relationship over 41 days. And that's all comes from painting these murals, man. Everything comes from the art for me. Any kind of success I have comes from the art, period.
I love that. And what's something you wish you knew earlier?
Finances, man. Easily. Yeah. I mean, that's still my biggest hurdle.
Yeah.
Finances. Anything comes with finances, I hate it. My brain turns off. I
Same
can spend
here.
money. I can spend it though.
Right.
That debit card, bloop. I'm gonna
Yeah, anytime I hear about budgeting and Excel sheets, accounting, I'm just like, you know what, Patrick, interview's over. Like, that's my biggest turn off. That. Now, this is your last question. So we fast forward to your very last day on Earth, Patrick, and you could have any meal that you'd like to have. What's on that plate?
Fried chicken.
From where?
You know what? I don't even care. I love fried chicken. I love fried chicken. Now, mind you, I love Northeast fried chicken, but I just had some great fried chicken in Texas, and it's a different ballgame out there, man. They do some good fried chicken too, so.
Fried chicken.
Like fried chicken.
You know what? I'm hungry now.
You know what I mean?
What kind of fish?
You're gonna go with either a salmon, a scallop, a Chilean sea bass. I love sea bass.
Okay, that's great. Now,
big fish eaters up here.
I love salmon. Salmon is my absolute favorite. And when it comes to healthy meals, you could literally get a piece of salmon, put it in the oven, and broil it. That's something that I do. 15 minutes, you broil it. It changes the world. One of my favorite quotes from Patrick is, if you can imagine it, we can paint it. So if you can imagine it, he can paint it. Where can they find you, Patrick?
PatrickGanino.com. You can find me on Instagram at Patrick Ganino. Facebook, my personal is Patrick Ganino, and my Facebook page is Studio of Patrick Ganino. So just look up Patrick Ganino. There's only one of me.
Gotcha. And what's going on for 2021? What are you the most excited for?
I got so many cool projects coming up, man. I got another building in Texas that I'm going back for. I got 2 projects in Michigan, 1 in Puerto Rico. I've got another big building in Stanford. I mean, just lots of really big, monstrous murals that hopefully impact others.
Patrick, all you do is impact people. You impact me personally. I love being your friend. I love hearing from you whenever, we get a text or we DM each other on IG and I see your name. It's always excitement. Like you said, like, oh, I miss you. What's going on? You have that gift, and it's just something that I completely want to nurture. And having you be in my herd, so to speak, makes me feel so thankful. And the fact that you're, one of our first guests for 2021, that's a big deal. Yeah, big deal.
Amazing.
Patrick, listen, we will talk soon, and thank you so much. Okay.
Love you, brother.
All right. Take care.
Be good.